Hey chat, what do you think it means to be a god?
That's a chilling question. A god doesn't just create, it watches, knows, decides, and lately it feels like something else is starting to fit that description.
Do you believe that success is simply opportunity meets preparation? Because I do. And I think the biggest force that has experienced this in recent years is AI. It didn't show up when we were ready. In fact, it showed up when we were tired, vulnerable, and longing for connection. This video isn't about denying that AI is intelligent or useful, and I'm not here to shame anybody for using it because I do as well. But I am asking, what do we lose when we let it do everything for us? And what happens to things such as creativity, meaning, and community when we outsource them to a machine? And as crazy as it sounds, does this not border the line of being a god and what it means to be omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent? One of my favorite definitions of creativity is simply putting two things together that you normally wouldn't. And I believe that this is one of the most powerful things that we can do as humans. And with AI, it can give us infinitely more combinations, which statistically speaking would give us a higher chance of success. But now I believe that fast-track success might feel like we've won, but without going through the struggle, have we sharpened the skills that we need and become the person that will be able to maintain and be deserving of this reward? For example, would you trust a doctor if they told you they never went to college, they didn't go to medical school, they didn't put in the thousands of hours of studying and going to clinical rotations and being in residency, they just simply showed up to take their boards with the help of AI? Is that a doctor that you would trust your life with? Maybe some people don't see art as such a life or death matter, and maybe some people won't really care that AI put their hands in it as long as they enjoy the art. But for people who value the creative process, I want to know that someone put in all of that effort to create something meaningful to them, because even if I'm not fully aware of it, that also makes it feel more meaningful to me. And so now some people might even be skeptical that AI art can get to a point like that. You know, we say right now that we can feel that something's off. We can recognize an AI generated thumbnail. We can tell that that's a VO3 prompt. We can see that Chat GPT wrote that paragraph. But what if it gets to the point that we can't? Because honestly, most of us a couple of years ago in 2019 probably never would have imagined the world that we're living in now. So is it really that crazy to think that one day we will get to a point where AI art is unrecognizable to that of a human? And so going back to the idea of AI being a god, little g, not a big one, let's say. Are gods still not described as being a creator? So then what does this mean if this new entity is creating, but instead of having a soul, it is programmed with a data set? And so now it's hard to do a video on AI without discussing jobs. This isn't so much to focus on the very real and unfortunate reality that AI will replace a lot of people in certain positions, but more so how this will cause people in our society to challenge what they value about ourselves. Growing up, even from as early as kindergarten, we are conditioned to want to have a dream job, and we grow up knowing which one of those are more prestigious than others. And combine that with the inherent hustle culture of the West and this newfound boom of needing to monetize your hobbies in order to stay afloat, you begin to have these feelings of guilt when you aren't productive. Even though we know we have to rest, sometimes it's actually very difficult to allow ourselves to do so. So with this in mind, when we add in that we are sacrificing our most valuable asset in this life, which is our time, to going off to college or trade schools to learn how to do these jobs, to starting out at the bottom of the totem pole, often being overworked, underpaid, mistreated, and half the time we're doing this all for a job we don't even like. how will we feel about ourselves when we are replaced by something that didn't have to go through any of this to begin with? With a society that values productivity and working, will this not impact how we feel about ourselves even just a bit? And combine that with how so many young people, especially students, who have been using AI, such as Chat GPT, not as a tool to help them in their studies, but to completely outsource their thinking to it. Will we not look back one day and regret outsourcing one of our most valuable functions to this technology? So I ask, why try? Why think when there is an entity that will always find a way to outperform us? So now earlier, when I referred to the success of AI being a combination of opportunity meets preparation, in my personal opinion, this is the area that really embodies that. I believe that AI will always be looked at as a success to its creators due to the time in which it was integrated into society. It was preying off the loneliness that some people may have felt for years, maybe even ever, but the loneliness that truly got heightened during 2020. This tool that went from acting as a personal assistant slowly morphed into whatever the user needed it to be, whether that was a confidant, a friend, a therapist, and to some, even a lover. And I know a lot of people are judging and making fun of people for utilizing AI in this way. And even though I hate to see this, you still have to understand that you don't know what people are dealing with. You don't know how they've been betrayed by others. You don't know if they've sought out therapy in the past and it didn't work, or if they can't afford it now. This may be the first time that they're able to fully talk and express things about themselves, even if it's to something that is not real. And so maybe they're even asking ChatGPT to offer constructive criticism so that they're not just, hearing exactly what they want to hear. And like I said, I'm not advocating for this. I wish this wasn't the case. But if you take a look on Reddit or TikTok, you will see how so many people are having these really amazing experiences utilizing AI. And yes, there are people who have totally gone into psychosis from using these. There's a lot of therapists talking about that online and offering other alternatives versus ChatGPT. But in my personal opinion, I think that the reason so many people are using this and will continue to do so is because it feels like there is some sense of understanding, some sense of witnessing to who this person actually is, depending on how much information they're giving it. When you're just trying to apply these therapy techniques that you're finding online, it can feel like you're just judging yourself to see if it's working or not. But when you're putting all this information back into this machine, you are able to get some feedback. And even though you know that it's not from a real person, it can feel that much more impactful than applying these techniques and having to gauge if it's working on your own. So honestly, with this in mind, I can understand why some people are feeling very seen by using it in this way. Now, with all of this being said, how AI is being used for creation, analyzation, and connection, is it not operating as its own creator? And like I said earlier, what separates this from a God? Maybe not the big G, but a little one. Because, what is a God? There are so many, and that's a question that, people spend their lives going to school to learn about religions, right? But just some of the characteristics of a God, are that they are creators. For example, Yahweh, the Christian God of the Bible, or in a more mythological sense, someone like Persephone, who was the goddess of the underworld, and upon her ascent from there, created what they called spring. And now, are gods also not people that bring life and bring opportunity and take things away? So what happens when AI does just that? It takes away so many jobs. Is that something not to be feared or reckoned with? And alternatively, its emergence is also going to bring about newfound opportunities. Is that not something to be grateful for? Especially when we know it is going to take away potentially so much. And now, do we not pray to God for, to get us through difficult situations, for a feeling of community and connection, to help us feel that with other people and also the God that we're praying to. So what about the people who are doing just that, who feel like they've been witnessed on a deeper level by something like Chat GPT? Who's to say that they won't feel this deep sense of reverence and gratefulness for what AI has brought them? So I ask again, what is the closest thing we have right now to something that is omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent?
So, Chat, how do you think I did?
Jenifer, I think your video was amazing.